Hello, hello, world! Well, today in our podcast, we are going to talk about a super important topic anxiety in pandemic. But before we start talking about it, I would like to thank our sponsors McDonald's, that offers the best burgers in the world, and Budweiser. And I would like to ask Enzo, Sofia, and Guilherme if you guys have seen that in the first year of the COVID 19 pandemic, global prevalence of anxiety and depression increased by a massive 25%, according to a scientific brief released by the World Health Organization. And also, I would like to say Deborah Castle's speech, the director of the Department of Mental Health and Substance Use at the World Health Organization. And she sums up the situation about anxiety in pandemic by saying, while the pandemic has generated interest in and concern for mental health, it has also revealed historical underinvestment in mental health services. Countries must act urgently to ensure that mental health support is available to all. And I think that this speech of Deborah Castle is very, very important. What do you guys think about this topic, and what can you complement about it?
I agree with you in every word, Luis. I think it's very important to talk about this topic. It is a growing concern, and it's nice to see the attention that has been given to this serious problem. So I think it's cool to give a little background. Anxiety is a serious but recent disease, being first officially recognized by the American Psychiatry Association in 1980. Prior to this time, those who suffered with this condition were diagnosed with nerves or stress, and the medical professionals they didn't have the training necessary to treat these people. A little bit about anxiety. It's important to mention that this condition relates to feeling fear, dread, and uneasiness, and that it can be caused by different reasons, such as different difficult experience in childhood, adolescence, and even in adulthood. That because going through stress and trauma can have a very big impact in your life and how you react to things. It's a normal part in your life to experience sometimes anxiety, some occasional anxiety. Everyone experiences. But if this condition persists during the years, that is because you have this mental disorder. You have this standard situation that keeps interfering with your life. So the relevance of this disease has grown, but there's still a stigma that sticks with it. A research from the National Survey on Mental Health, Literacy, and Stigma shows that are some misconceptions about how society views anxiety. Some of them are that some people believe that anxiety is not a real illness. Some people believe that anxiety is a sign of personal weakness, and some people believe that people with anxiety could snap out if they want to. When talking about it, we can show how relevant and serious this disorder is, and by explaining and informing people, we are able to reduce these stigmas.
Hi guys. First of all, I would like to thank Luis for inviting me to participate on this podcast. I'm very happy to be here. And I agree with the boys' statements. Many people, just like Guy said, think that anxiety is not a real illness or that is a sign of weakness. And this just means that anxiety should be treated and discussed just like other illness. Even though now in 2020 and 2021, as we said, anxiety rates are growing and resources and actions must be taken. According to research by The Lancet, 76 million new cases of anxiety were recorded in 2020. Among the most affected groups are women and young people. And according to a study by National Youth Council, 6 of 10 young people reported having felt anxiety and made excessive use of social media during the pandemic. 51% said that they feel exhausted or tiredness, and 40% had insomnia or weight disorders. According to experts, this increase in anxiety in young people and children is mainly associated with social isolation, adopted as a preventive measure against the transmission of COVID-19, the loss of objectives and goals due to uncertainties imposed by the pandemic, the absence school, and the closure of institutions and financial difficulties experienced by families during this period caused anxiety rates to increase.
Yeah, so now talking a little bit about especially its opinion about the topic. Shekhar Sakhena is a professor of the practice of global mental health and former director of the World Health Organization Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse, says that COVID is impacting the older age group more, but anxiety and depression are being faced by the young adults much more, which is exactly the opposite of what we've seen in some of the earlier crises. She also says that it's the young adults and the children who are being impacted, and the effects are going to be long-lasting. So when we analyze this saying by the professor, we can see that the physical effects of COVID are more powerful and more concerning on people of age, but the mental effects are much more powerful on people my age, for example, for people, adults that are not so old, or people who have just entered college. So everybody went through the pandemic, and we know how it feels to be locked inside our houses and to not have contact with anyone else personally, only by calls or video calls. And we know that people need this human interaction personally. It is very suffocating to be obligated to stay at home and not talk, for example, to friends or to teachers or even family sometimes. Everybody needs this physical interaction. Everybody needs to talk and to see people constantly, because when we stay at home locked in, sometimes we can lose ourselves in our thoughts. And the fact that we at people during the pandemic were always worried if they would contract the disease or if someone they love would contract the disease, and when there wasn't a vaccine, if they contract COVID, what would happen, what would be the treatment used, and if they would be able to survive. So this constant concern about people themselves and about people that they love generate this anxiety, and it leads, for example, and it leads to sayings like the one I just read for you guys. So the fact that many times people wouldn't have someone to talk about their problems or to interact, this will make them lose themselves and be constantly worrying, and that will generate anxiety and high levels of mental health issues during the pandemic.
Well, thank you, Enzo, Guilherme, and Sofia. That's all for today in our podcast. Bye bye.